Welcome to another M9 Prime Gaming video. This video is about PlayStation Plus Extra and all the best games that you can play on it right now. From a massive list of games to choose from, how would you ever know what to play first, especially if you just got a PS5 or even if you just happen to get a PS4? Most of these games are PS5 only. Some of these games do have PS4 versions, but obviously on the PlayStation 5 it is the best way to play all of these games. If you are a big Sony fan, there's a lot of games on this list that you probably already played and you already finished. But either way, let's get to it, and let's get to our number one game that I recommend on PlayStation Plus Extra that you can pick up right now. Number 1, God of War 2018. This is the God of War game that came out in 2018 for the PlayStation 4. It only comes in a PS4 version. However, if you are playing it on the PlayStation 5, you do get the 60 frames per second and other little upgrades and quicker loading times because of the hardware you are running it on. This story is about Kratos and his son Atreus going to scatter his wife's ashes on the tallest peak in all of the realms. While this may seem like a straightforward journey, it is anything but straightforward. You will go on an adventure with Atreus and Kratos, and you will see many things from Norse mythology, which this game is based out of. I personally really like Norse mythology, so this was right up my alley, but the combat, the storytelling, the visuals, everything is so good in this game that I think that even though it is a 2018 game, it is still one of the best games you can play right now in 2024. If you do catch yourself thinking, oh, these games are not really for me, I'm not really into this sad dad, third person perspective kind of game, I suggest you try it for at least an hour and get through the first big boss fight of the game. That moment personally made my jaw drop, and that's what sold me on this game, that it is one of the greatest games ever made. Currently it sits at an OpenCritic score of 94, which is amazing. That is one of the highest rated games that you can get, and the critics are not wrong. This is one of the best games you could still play to this day. Even though the graphics don't look as good as Ragnarok, the game still holds up and it is still a beautiful game. It's just, it could be better looking if it was newer, but again, as of today, this game is 6 years old. So if you haven't played this game yet, I suggest you just put it in your download queue and give it a shot as soon as you're done playing whatever you're playing right now. This game will not disappoint you. There's so much to do, so much to see, and so much to enjoy with Kratos and Atreus. It's not like the old style games. It is totally different. So if you played God of War many years ago, this is a different game and the same great Kratos. Number 2, Ghost of Tsushima. In Ghost of Tsushima, you play as a samurai named Jin Sakai, the last member of his clan, with the only living relative being his uncle, who helps you along the journey. Your goal in this entire game is to repel the Mongol invaders of Japan. Now you can choose to do it honorably like a samurai and stand and fight every single opponent, or you can choose to become the Ghost of Tsushima. Becoming the ghost means that you will be doing devious activities to scare all your opponents into thinking that you are a mythical creature and not just a man with a sword. You will go on a beautiful journey through the landscapes of Japan on your trusty horse. The way the game guides you to your next destination is using the wind, which is a very effective tool. It's just the wind blowing with some leaves and some petals, and it looks so beautiful. Everything in this game is so gorgeous. Every environment is so well done. You can't look anywhere and not be amazed by the amount of detail that is given to you. The combat in this game feels so good. You are giving your abilities over time as you progress through the game, so it always feels fresh, and you are always learning new abilities, which gives you time to master them one by one. and figure out your best playstyle. You have many stances with your sword that work against different enemies, and you have many gadgets that you can use. In every encounter, you have the ability to go in loud or quiet. Going in loud means everyone's going to see you and you're just going to have a fight. And I'll be honest, it won't be easy. These enemies will gang up on you and you'll have a hard time. Or you can go stealthy and become the Ghost of Tsushima. Being stealthy is a lot of fun in this game with all the tools you get, and it makes you really feel like you are mastering all the abilities you have. And if you mess up, then you can go to plan B and just take out your sword and fight them off one by one. The PS5 version of the game is the director's cut, which includes the Iki Island expansion as well as the Ghost of Tsushima Legends expansion. Iki Island just expands on more gameplay with more rich environments and more storytelling about another island, as well as it gives you a couple Easter eggs which are really cool to find. The Legends mode is a co-op game mode. Here you will be able to do missions with co-op partners as well as engaging in fights in wave-based rounds. If the story doesn't interest you, you can just head over to the Legends mode with a couple friends and just enjoy the combat, which is so amazing. You won't be disappointed. It will have a learning curve, especially if you haven't played the regular game, but if you start off with the first couple missions, you'll get right into it, and then you can go into the waves and just have fun and enjoy every bit of this game. Number 3, Control Ultimate Edition. Control is the first game on my list that is not a PlayStation exclusive. This game can be played many other places, but it is very good on the PlayStation 5. There is a PS4 version of this game, but the PS4 does not have enough horsepower to do what this game needs it to do. The PS5 is the definitive console way of playing this game. You play as Jessie Faden, and she is looking for her brother. Her search has brought her to the oldest house, which is a unique building owned by the Federal Bureau of Control, or FBC. Somehow, upon entering the oldest house, Jessie becomes the director of the whole facility, and the weird thing is, everybody that works there just goes with it. Apparently they are in a lockdown that's caused by one of the mysterious items that they have in their possession. Because of this is not just your standard third-person shooter. There is a lot of weird things going on, and there's a lot of story elements that are very odd. I really enjoyed the way this was all put together. All the boss battles, it's stuff you've never seen, and this game is very physics heavy. You have the power to pick up objects and throw them at people. Eventually you get the power to throw people at people. And you do have to solve the mystery of this house, and it will bring you to a conclusion. So far this is a standalone title. There is no part 2, and there really doesn't need to be. The story has been told. However, there are 2 downloadable content pieces that do come with the Ultimate Edition. The first bit of DLC content is The Foundation, which explores the early days of the Federal Bureau of Control. And the second piece of DLC is called AWE, which introduces Alan Wake into the universe of Control, meaning that the Control universe and the Alan Wake universe are intertwined. This is a fantastic game that I think everybody should play. And if you think it's going to be a little bit too hard, in the settings you can go to accessibility and even turn on God mode. You can turn on unlimited ammo and just breeze through the story that way. There is no penalty at all. You still get all your trophies, you still get all your superpowers, you still get to do everything in the game. You just don't have to worry about dying. And that is a great quality of life feature for anyone that just wants to play a game and not worry about having to struggle through certain parts. Even if you don't have a PS5 and you're watching this video, I suggest you play this game anywhere you can. That includes the Xbox, the PC, or even on the Switch. Unfortunately, that is a cloud version, so it won't be the best experience, but it'll definitely be a good experience. Because this game is just so amazing and so fun to play. Number 4, Spider-Man Miles Morales. This is the Spider-Man game about Miles Morales. He is the second Spider-Man in New York and is being mentored by Peter Parker. Peter is away in another country during this game, so it is only Miles that is available to be played as. Even though you get the new Spider-Man, Miles, who is considerably younger than Peter Parker, you still get the same great traversal, the same great combat, and even some new gadgets and new powers, since Miles Morales is much different than Peter Parker in terms of the kind of Spider-Man they are. The story is on the shorter side. You can probably get the main quests and most of the side quests done in under 6 hours. However, to get the Platinum Trophy, if that is your thing, you will need 2 complete playthroughs to unlock everything. Since this is a shorter game and it doesn't really have a number after the title, I would consider this to be Spider-Man 1.5. It fits neatly between Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2. If you have played Spider-Man 1, it does end with you meeting Miles Morales and finding out he is the other Spider-Man. So this fits in perfectly and ties the 2 games together beautifully. What's great about this shorter experience, it is a standalone game. You don't need to play the first game and you don't need to play the second game. This is a great jumping on point for this entire series. You get to feel what it's like to play as Spider-Man, you get to feel the combat, you get some of the story beats, and you don't really miss out on anything from the first game, and you don't get spoiled on anything in the first game or the second game. So it is a great place to jump in. It is the only Spider-Man game available on PlayStation Plus Extra right now. The first game has been taken off the service, but this is a much better experience overall. It is a little bit more refined, even though it is shorter. And it is the PS5 version that's available here, where the Spider-Man one that was available was only PS4. Because this is a PS5 game, you do get a couple of choices in terms of performance or fidelity. Unless you really need that 4K with ray tracing going on, which is only available in the fidelity mode at 30 frames per second, I suggest playing this game in performance ray tracing mode, or performance RT. Performance RT, I believe, gives you a 1440p resolution with 60 frames per second. The thing about this mode is you get the 60 frames per second, which really helps with the combat and the traversal. It makes things feel very good, and you get all of the reflections in the buildings. And because it is New York, there's lots of glass and lots of reflections to be had. If you don't think this game is for you, I suggest you still give it a download and then swing around the city for a bit, because even just swinging around and not doing any missions is so much fun. And there's also a lot of side activities that are really fun to do. Either way, I highly recommend this condensed Spider-Man experience, and I hope you enjoy it. Number 5. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection. So the Legacy of Thieves Collection is a little bit of a cheat. It is a PS5 game that includes Uncharted 4 and Uncharted Lost Legacy. All the footage you see here is taken from Lost Legacy, and there is really no spoilers. This is an early mission and it's just a bit of sneaking around. There is gunplay, but I haven't done any recording with the gunplay for this video. But I think this will give you a good look at what the game looks like, how cinematic it is, and how detailed everything in this game is. First, let's talk about Uncharted 4, which is the 4th game in the Uncharted series featuring Nathan Drake. You don't need to play the first 3 games. The 4th one is a complete game. It is quite long, I would say, over 20 hours probably, and it is a very heavily action-packed game with lots of cool set pieces and lots of gunplay, and also a great story. Lost Legacy, on the other hand, is a smaller, self-contained experience featuring Chloe Frazer as the protagonist. You still meet some of the same characters and you do some of the same things in a different place. So it is more of the same, but different, is the best way to put it. It's still a great game, and I would say it's about a third of the size of Uncharted 4. So if you want something smaller or something to jump into, Lost Legacy is a great place to start. The best way to describe the Uncharted games is an action movie, but in game form. Think of Indiana Jones and make it a game. I know that they are making an Indiana Jones game, but this, I think, is 100% inspired by Indiana Jones with different characters and a little bit of a different story. There are lots of cool puzzles to solve, and there is a lot of voiceover, and it's all done so well. It's like watching a movie, and the cutscenes can be a little bit lengthy, which I like, And again, you can skip them all if all you want is action. That is available for you, but I suggest you go through the cutscenes. You do look at what the story has to offer, and it's not like it cuts away into cutscene. Usually it's gameplay right into cutscene. It's all seamless. It all looks like a movie, and every part of this game is really well detailed and really well thought out. If you don't have a PS5, you can play both of these games on PlayStation Plus Extra as the PS4 versions of these games. If you enjoy action games with lots of shooting and great story, I suggest you check out the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection on PlayStation Plus Extra.
Lotus. The hell does that mean?
Number 6. Returnal. By saying that Returnal is quite a difficult game. It does borrow from the Souls-like games like Bloodborne, Demon Souls, and Dark Souls in terms of the way the combat is and how punishing the game can be. Unlike those games that I mentioned, this is more of a roguelike game. This means that every time you die, the map will change, the enemies will change, and the configuration of the entire map will change. Sometimes it'll become bigger, sometimes it'll become smaller, but it'll definitely be different every single time you die. And I will say, you will die many times, at least at the beginning of the game. Once you get the hang of the movement and the traversal and the gunplay, I think you're gonna be just fine. It took me a while to figure it out, but once I got it, everything felt so good. The controls are so well done, everything is so responsive, and the PS5 really doesn't stutter at all. It is a very, very good experience playing this game, especially once you get good. Now in Returnal, you play as Celine, who is a pilot who explores worlds that haven't been explored yet. However, her ship crash lands on the planet of Atropos. So Celine's mission in this game is to call for help from her command. However, something is preventing her from actually being able to leave the planet, and it's called the White Shadow. It is a mysterious signal, and Celine has to get to the bottom of whatever this signal is to be able to fully escape the planet and not be stuck in a time loop like she currently is. As you progress through the game's 6 biomes, you will unlock story beats, which are all done in first person. They are done quite well, and they really do expand on what is going on in the story of Returnal and why you are stuck on this planet. This game is meant to be played multiple times, as there are 3 unique endings that you get one after the other. They are meant to go in order. There is no secret ending or anything like that. It all is based on how far you've progressed in the story. And if you're done that story and you want more Returnal, there's also the Tower of Sisyphus, which was a free DLC that was added about a couple months after the game was launched. This DLC also adds co-op to the entire game, so you can play with a friend or a random stranger through the entire game. One thing to note is to actually enter the Tower of Sisyphus and access the content, you do need to beat the boss of the second biome. This will unlock the grappling hook, which will give you access to the Tower of Sisyphus from your starting area. Now I know this game is not going to be for everyone just because of how difficult it can be, but it is still worth a download just to try it out. I mean, you might like it, you might not, but it definitely is a masterpiece and it definitely deserves to be on this list. Number 7. Final Fantasy VII Remake. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, you play a mercenary named Cloud who was hired by an eco-terrorist organization called Avalanche. You end up sticking with this organization for the entire game, meaning you have multiple characters for your battles that you can choose between. So even though in the main world you only control Cloud, when you're in battle you get to choose any character that's in your party at the time, and they do alternate depending on where you are in the story. The story is very linear overall. There are a couple hub areas with side quests, but mostly you are going through a very linear story with not much to see on the side, which is kind of nice because it does guide you and it's a great starting point for a Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the second part to this remake, was just released on February 29th, 2024. That game opens up a lot more and is open world. So playing this one first to get the base story and the beginning of the actual full story of Rebirth, is a very good way of going about it. Since this game is based on the original Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 1, which came on 3 discs, this is essentially the retelling of Disc 1. Rebirth is going to be the retelling of Disc 2, and we do not know what Disc 3 will be yet. Because it is a retelling, there's a lot of charm that this game retains from the original PlayStation 1 version, but also adds to it with more in-depth characters and a lot more story around the Midgar section, which was quite short in the original game, but here it is expanded out to a full 20+ hour game. So that means you're going to get a lot more stuff that you didn't get in the original, plus all that good stuff from the original in this story. There are parts in this game that you may not understand, and those parts are usually nods to the hardcore fans from the PlayStation 1 generation. And honestly, that doesn't take away from the story at all. You're still going to get a great story, and you're going to understand everything by the time you finish the game. Those little moments are more for the people that have played Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation 1 and know the whole story and know what's going to happen ahead of time. Because there are a couple changes from the original game, and characters are moved around in terms of when you actually get to see them, which is a nice touch. So it's a little fresh and it is old at the same time. If anything here looks at least remotely interesting to you, you should definitely check this game out and do the first mission. And the best part of the first mission is, if you've watched Breaking Bad, one of the characters is Badger from Breaking Bad, which is a really trippy thing when you first hear it. When I first played this game, I didn't know he was in it, and I was like, I know that voice. It's Badger from Breaking Bad, which is a nice touch to have a big name voice actor in this game. Number 8, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This game is a third-person shooter platformer game, which means you get to shoot guns and jump around, which doesn't sound that fun to some people, but this game does everything so well that I'm sure you're going to have a blast. This is the latest game as of March 2024 in the Ratchet and Clank series, and you don't need to play the previous games to understand anything. All you need to know is that Ratchet and Clank are both heroes in this world, and they need to stop Dr. Nefarious, who has stolen a Dimensionator gun which lets him go into different dimensions. Because of the dimension hopping, you will see how well the PlayStation 5 does with loading the game from the SSD, which when it first came out was a huge deal. Insomniac has done a great job making this game look fantastic, run fantastic, and load so fast. I mean, before this game came out, nothing like this has ever been done on this scale on a console. Again, like some other games on this list, you do have different performance modes that you can toggle between. You have Fidelity, you have Performance, and Performance RT, which is again what I suggest, where you get the reflections, you get this good frame rate, and very decent resolution, which makes this game look and play fantastic. One of the outstanding features of this game, which is not related to performance, are the guns. There is such a large variety of weapons that you can choose from to initiate in combat that this game never gets boring, never gets old. You're always going to be having a new weapon to try out. There are also some platforming puzzles which are actually quite fun. Sometimes they can be a little bit tricky, but nothing you can't figure out. This game is catered towards a slightly younger audience, but even older people like myself really enjoy this game. It looks fantastic, it plays fantastic, so please don't let the more cartoony art style of this game turn you off from actually trying this game, because I think once you start playing it, you're going to have such a good time. Considering this list of 10 games has 2 games from Insomniac on it, it is definitely worth checking this one out, because Insomniac has not made a blunder yet on the PlayStation 5. Number 9, Resident Evil 2, the remake. This is another remake of a game from the PlayStation 1 generation. In this case, it's Resident Evil 2. This game gives you 2 stories for the price of 1, or in this case, for the price of PlayStation Plus Extra. You get to choose between playing as Leon Kennedy or Claire Redfield. Each character has a slightly unique story. They do share environments, but there are story beats that only pertain to Leon or only pertain to Claire. The same goes for the environments you get to visit. When you are in the police station, there are rooms that only Leon can unlock, and there are also rooms that only Claire can unlock. Also, this leads them to all have different weapons at their disposal. So weapons that Leon has, Claire will never get, and vice versa. In Leon's story, it is his first day at the Raccoon City Police Department as a rookie cop, and he's just trying to figure out what's going on as he gets there for his first day on the job. Claire, on the other hand, is there looking for her brother Chris Redfield, who is a current police officer at Raccoon City Police Department. So they both have different goals in the end. During this whole game, you have to face zombies that have been created by the Umbrella Corporation, which is a big corporation that is at Raccoon City. They created the T virus for whatever reason, and it causes people to turn into zombies. And not only do you have to deal with the mundane zombies, this virus also creates other infected that are much more dangerous and way scarier than a regular zombie. Now, as you're playing, you will also have to solve some puzzles to get through certain doorways. Some of these puzzles may feel a bit weird to do, but you have to remember this is a remake of a PlayStation 1 game, so some of the mechanics and the puzzle solving from the first original game have carried over. However, the canon explanation for this is that the police station used to be a museum, and some of these hidden entrances are still from the museum, which use gems and stuff like that to open doors. I know, it's a little bit odd, but it gets you to explore different areas, and it's still an amazing game, even with the little odd puzzle solving elements. Even though the number 2 is in the title of this game, it is a self-contained story, so there's no worrying about needing to play the original, which has never been remade yet and is still in the old school style of isometric 3D. If you do like the kind of survival horror games, you really owe yourself to play this one, because Capcom really went above and beyond in this remake and made a fantastic game. Number 10, Death Stranding Director's Cut. This game is the most controversial game I will have on my list. That is why it is in the last spot. This game may not be for everyone. Some people say this is a walking simulator and it's too boring, but I assure you it is anything but too boring. Though it technically is a walking simulator, but I find it is more of a puzzle game because you are trying to find the best route to go through the terrain to deliver your packages. So it's not just pushing the stick forward and walking, unless it is very clear ground. You do have to climb mountains, go down hills, cross water, and figure out the best way to get yourself and your cargo from point A to point B. During this whole game, you play as Sam Bridges, which you can see is Norman Reedus, with all his mannerisms and everything taken from motion capture. Sam is special because he can survive outside, and he does have a fighting chance against the paranormal creatures called the BTs. Something in him allows him to fight all that off. However, the rain, which in this game is called Timefall, still does hurt him. So it is very important to keep dry in this game. That means keep yourself dry and keep your cargo dry. You do have vehicles that are available to you and structures that are built in the world, and as time goes on and there's rain, they deteriorate, so you do have to fix them with different materials that you collect from the different bases. When you are making your way from your base to a new base, there is no network available to you and everything has to be done solo. However, once you meet the new base and you put it on quote-unquote the network, you do get to see other players' creations in your world, which makes the game a lot more fun and a lot easier because you don't have to build everything. You are working as a collective to build the world around you. And I do suggest playing with this game enabled online, because if you're playing offline, you have to create everything and manage all the resources. which is a massive task. Let other players help you out. That is the very special part of this game. As you progress through the story, you're going to meet a lot of characters, and almost every single person is someone famous that you have seen from TV or movies. There's even Conan O'Brien as a side character that you get to meet and bring him packages, which I think is pretty cool. Kojima really flexed his muscle about his friends that he has, and he's put a lot of them in the game. Some of them don't use their own voices, but it is their likeness with a professional voice actor acting out the part. Now you may think this is all about walking, but I assure you there are plenty of action parts and there are plenty of weapons you get to use during the story, but you do have to be careful when and where you can use them. Bonus game, GTA 5. Now I had to put Grand Theft Auto 5 on this list overall, but I couldn't put it in the top 10, and I decided to make it a bonus game. The main reason for that is this game originally came out on the Xbox 360 and PS4. That is so long ago, and I'm sure most of you that are watching this have played this game at some point. So putting this game on a top 10 list of the best games you can play now doesn't feel that good, because you could have played it on the PS3, you could have played it on the PS4, and now you can play it on the PS5. And this list was meant for people with PS5s that want the best games on PlayStation Plus Extra at this very moment. However, there is no denying this is one of the biggest games that has ever come out on a console, and it's sold millions and millions of copies so far. The single player game is fantastic. You get to play as Franklin, Michael, and Trevor. And there's also GTA Online, which right now is very fleshed out. However, jumping in fresh is going to be a little bit daunting because there has been so much content that has been added. It is very hard to know where to start. And even I don't really play online by myself. I usually jump on with my friend who is much more into this game, and he guides me because I'm lost, and I'm sure a new player would be lost at the beginning. But it's probably very easy to find your footing once you figure out which parts of the online are your favorite. If you made it this far, I appreciate it, and I thank you very much for watching my video. I would love if you subscribed and you liked this video, and if you could share it with someone that is looking for a game to play and has PS Plus Extra, that would be amazing. And I'm sure it would be quite helpful just to get an idea of some of the better games that are on there, because there is so many games to choose from. If you've ever been through that list, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and happy gaming.